This is part 1 of a series that I will be doing, reviewing each modern NASCAR Heat game, maybe with the exception of Heat 5. Depends on how many people like this series, because there is no way in hell I'm buying Heat 5 otherwise. So, unless people really like this series, I have better things to spend my money on, thank you. NASCAR Heat Evolution. A game that most consider to be the worst NASCAR game ever made, for reasons you probably already know if you've clicked on this video, but I will cover them anyways. This game received a lot of hype from the NASCAR community, especially in the NR 2003 community, that is, NASCAR Racing 2003 season, by the way, for those that are uneducated. Apparently, some people who worked on NR 2003 were going to be working on Heat Evolution. I'd show screenshots of that conversation here, but the site the forum thread was hosted on was shut down. Why? The owner got mad that people were using the site as it was intended to be used. Downloading content for NR 2003. Thank you to the guy that owned SRD. These guys also put out NASCAR Heat, Heat 2002, and Dirt to Daytona. The first was not well received, while the second two were well received. It's easy to see why Dirt to Daytona was well received, but I don't know about Heat 2002. Probably a video for another day, but the point is, people were expecting these guys to put something big out. The second coming of Christ. They were expecting the second coming of Christ. Did they put out the second coming of Christ? No! Now you might be wondering to yourself, why are you reviewing the newer NASCAR Heat games? Why not the Utechnics or EA ones? Well, while the other reviewers here on YouTube have grown up with those games, I grew up with these ones. So I can put my opinions out on these better than I could just looking to games I didn't play until much later. Still won't stop me from viewing them though, by the way. So, my personal experience with this game. This tale starts in late 2016. 9-year-old me, yes, I was 9 in 2016, shut up, watched his first NASCAR race, and was absolutely awestruck by the sport. Which race was it? Homestead 2016. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I am a Jimmy Johnson fan. Flash forward to 2017, and 10-year-old me now has a PlayStation 4, and one day I decide to look on GameStop's website for NASCAR games. What did I find? NASCAR Heat Evolution. I convinced my mother to take me to GameStop that very day to buy it, and I began playing it religiously. Obviously, being, 10, I did not look at it critically. Sure, I got frustrated at it for being too hard for novice gamer me, but I didn't think of it as a bad game. I loved the game. I have so many memories of playing it. I did not like the game as far as difficulty goes, which is why I did not get that far in career mode as a youngin', but I did plenty of 100% races in Race Now, because I used to have a lot of time on my hands. I used to do a lot of the championship mode, stuff like that. I remember recording rec replays using my iPad and sending it to family members, specifically my Uncle Will, who was a huge NASCAR fan. Tried to introduce it to me around mid-2016 when I got into IndyCar, which was very short-lived, by the way. I didn't really watch IndyCar long, and I have not watched IndyCar that much since. I did not like NASCAR when he showed it to me. He showed me the Coca-Cola 600. I didn't like it because of the car sounds. That's literally it. I was 9 years old, you have to remember. I'd show those rec replays here, but they've been lost to time. I had a YouTube channel against my parents' wishes that I uploaded Heat Evolution content to, and I did upload those rec replays to YouTube in a compilation on that old channel. I'd show that, but I deleted the channel when I made this one because I thought it was cringe. Yeah. Then, a couple years later, I began to browse the internet and saw people slamming the game. Was I shocked and surprised? No. All the criticisms, they made sense to me. The game was just not good. It was horrible, in fact. Or so I thought. No, I'm not going to defend this game for being secretly good. It's not good. But I was not playing this game at that time, of course, and I didn't play it since, and I just kind of internalized this game was really bad. It was the worst thing to ever come out. It wasn't. And that is what I'll be getting into over the course of the video. And over the course of the series, I will be going over how they improve year by year. How Monster Games and 704 Games and whatever the fuck they call themselves now evolved this series over time to the point where it became pretty competent. And then they quickly jumped off a cliff with the series in hand. In this video, I will be covering the following categories: graphics, game modes, sound, and gameplay. Usually I would cover game modes first, but the graphics, we just have to talk about them. Some people like to compare these graphics to a PS2 game's graphics. 4 out of the 12 user reviews on Metacritic for the PS4 version of this game say this. And you know what? That's unfair. Sure, the game does not look very good, but come on, have you actually seen a PS2 game in your life? This looks like a PS3 game. It's still not great, especially since this is a few years into the PS4's lifespan. People had figured out how to develop for the PS4. Although, another fairness on that front, they were new to modern game development and they were using the Unity engine. Two things that don't really mesh that well. That doesn't change the fact that this game looks like piss for 2016. You can make as many excuses as you want, but it does not change the fact that this game does not look that great. The graphics during day races, though, they do look alright. I will say that, they look alright. Maybe that's just because I'm playing the PC port. I haven't fired the game up on my PS4, although I might after recording this just to compare, and if I find that it's different, I'll just put it up on screen and say that. I recorded all the footage on my PC, so that's why it's a bit grainy, because OBS was being a big bitch. There's some things that I do like here, though. There's nice reflections and shadows on the cars, although sometimes they'll have that little ragged edge thing. And they do have some features that tracks have, like the speed trap at auto club. Oh.
They've got that TRD radar trap up there. Try not to look at that.
Hey, editing me here. Going back through this to edit it, and I noticed that this is a pretty bad criticism in hindsight. I don't think they would have spent a lot of time trying to make this accurate to what your actual speed is, because that's kind of pointless. People aren't really going to look at it as they're actually going by. So, you know, I'm just leaving this in here because it's funny, that's why. The pit animation here looks good, and I certainly hope you like it, because I tanked a win at Phoenix in career mode to show you this. Another thing I like here is something I don't think has been done before, and I don't think it's been done since. They show you a 3D model of the trophy for the race you win, although, you know, you could probably compare that to the post-race celebrations, and this has nothing on the post-race celebrations, especially the ones EA had for the NASCAR Thunder Series. Those were god tier. I think they're neat, though. I think the trophies are neat. They're very neat. I wish they had a trophy room or something to show trophies that you've won, but I digress. I'm going to show you a clip here to demonstrate two things that a lot of people had gripes with, and I do agree with. The damage model and the game's graphics during night races. You're driving the wrong way. There's a wreck in turn 4. I feel like I don't even have to explain how bad this is. Game was clearly made with day races in mind, as is clear by how atrocious it looks at night. And the damage model. God, you saw how much damage my car should have taken, but how little actually showed up on the car. Even with the blinking red indicator on the damage model indicator thing up there, and the aerodynamics warning on the screen, it looks like the car just had a little fender bender. That's it. Why? I've always thought this game had a terrible damage model, but this is even worse than I remembered. Here's another thing pointed out by reviewers at release: the cameras. There's 3 options here: the typical chase view you'll find in any NASCAR game, the driver view, and the hood view. In my opinion, the driver view doesn't work that well here. It has some nice cockpit details, but the steering wheel was the subject of many criticisms. Look at this. Why do the driver's hands just suddenly move only when you switch over to the driver view? Not only that, why is the degree of motion limited to 90 degrees in either direction? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Unlike almost all console NASCAR games after 08, you cannot look around your car in chase view here. You can look a tiny bit to the left and right in the driver and hood views, but it's such a little amount that's practically useless. The main menu looks nice. I like how they have it set in victory lane with whoever your favorite driver is, and how it changes based on what driver and track you're selecting in race now. But overall, although I like some of the visual details they did with this, I am gonna give it a 2 out of 10 for graphics. The main graphics just, they don't look that great. Game modes. Now, some people would lump this right in with gameplay, but I think gameplay and game modes are 2 different things with sports games and racing games, and I think they should be recognized as such. You can have all the game modes in the world, but a lack of good gameplay can drag that down, and vice versa. There are the usual modes here: Race Now, Championship, Online Multiplayer, and the big boy, Career Mode. It's worth pointing out that the game didn't come out with local multiplayer, which was a massive oversight. So, one thing they did with this game was that they decided to have a progression system of sorts where you unlock tracks rather than just having them all right off the bat. To be honest, I think it's a good concept, but it does not work well for a NASCAR game. It can also be quite a bit grindy to unlock them, with you having to get a certain speed rating or a certain level on each track to unlock more. On Steam, only around 27% of players finish unlocking all the tracks. That's not good. Championship mode is pretty self-explanatory: race one season as your favorite driver, but there is something more. You can pick schedules of 6, 12, and 23 races, according to what tracks you have unlocked. Then there's the full schedule, of course. I like this. I just wish they extended it so that you could run a full schedule without playoffs. A lot of people like that, I think. Online multiplayer, it's dead. I don't touch online modes in games anyway, so I won't offer my opinions on them in any of the games of the series, but it is worth noting that I think a major reason why NASCAR 15 online leagues are still fairly big is because the NASCAR Heat games just did not have good online play. I'm actually in a NASCAR 15 league, and most of the people watching this video are probably going to be from there. So, hi Aflac guys. Challenges. Unlike other NASCAR games, you don't start with all of them, or you don't start with one level and then you unlock the challenges in the other levels by being the first level. If you play the EA games, you know what I'm talking about. They unlock as you progress in the game in general, with DLC challenges being unlocked from the start. No, I did not spend money on DLC, these just came from free DLC, which there's plenty of on Steam. I'm not sure I like the challenges being locked just because of how long it takes to unlock all the challenges. After you beat a challenge, you get a video from a driver walking you through a lap around the track. That's where I got the audio for the Auto Club speed traps from earlier in the video. I don't know if it's just my computer or not, but I couldn't get these to work properly. They were always out of sync, with the video being a bit choppy and the audio being fine but far ahead. Now, the main focus, career mode. I like the concept behind it. It's like a simplified version of the career modes that Eutechnics attempted during their reign. Unfortunately, there's a few flaws that bring it down. For one thing, you can only pick from 4 different numbers. 8, 28, 99. I can understand the reasoning behind this. They were prestigious numbers in the late 90s and early 2000s. But 36? Was MB2 and Ken Schrader just that important? You can customize your driver's looks a bit, choose your manufacturer, and then proceed. Hi, Dave! Yeah, that's the thing about this in Heat 2. They never let you choose your driver name. You're just always identified by your username on whatever platform you're playing on. I never liked that. So, we're an unsponsored newcomer, and we need to place in the top 30 twice to get sponsorship. Presumably, this area of the game takes place in 2015. For some reason, they locked the settings for this section, so you're stuck at 2% races with no flags. After you get through, you're offered a sponsorship by Moog. As you move along in career mode, every 12 or so races, you get higher paying sponsors with new paint schemes illustrating sponsor tiers. Of course, you can always re-sign with your existing sponsor with the same cash deal as everyone else, but there's no new paint scheme for it. One thing that's always been a little weird to me is that the sponsors after Moog are locked to specific manufacturers. Oh, you're a Chevrolet loyalist, but you really like dustless blasting? Yeah, you'd have to switch to Toyota. After the first race, you can select secondary sponsors that have specific goals in mind, such as leading a lap or finishing in the top 15. So, now that that's settled, it's time for Daytona. What the hell? $11,000 for winning the Daytona 500? This is something that has always really infuriated me about this game. They have a sliding scale of winnings until you get to Season 2, when they're somewhat normal. I really don't get this move. If this is supposed to simulate being a team owner, why is the prize money so low? And take a page out of NASCAR Thunder 2004's book. They had all the prize money just the same. And it was fine. The upgrades in this game cost so much, it's probably going to take you until Season 3 to unlock everything. I don't get this move. Why? Look, I won the Daytona 500 as a rookie, and I now have $16,000 and 500 fans. What is this, a local stock car league? Wouldn't winning the Daytona 500 at such a young age give me at least 50,000 fans? This game's logic makes no sense to me. For the sake of this review, I used Cheat Engine to acquire a sizable donation and fully upgrade my team. Steam tells me that less than 10% of people have reached this point in career mode, which really says something. I ended up having to force myself to get through the first season on 2% races, also just for this review. The races, only in career mode, have little intros read by Rick Allen. They're alright, but most of them just feel disjointed. I do like how they try to emulate the broadcast overlay you'd expect to see in pre-race from either Fox or NBC, changing based on which network has the rights to whatever race you're doing. As far as standings shown go, they're pretty neat. They allow you to switch between overall point standings and playoff standings, and the latter is very detailed. It of course shows you the playoff standings, but it also shows you what drivers need a win and what drivers need more points to get in. I wish they put a little more thought into this though, because I don't think who needs wins is really necessary for a win and in playoff format. Sure, if there's 16 different winners, but I don't think that's ever happened in the playoff age. I know this is only the 3rd year of playoffs, but I still don't see the point having it there. The who needs points thing is nice, and I do wish they expanded it a little further, but it wasn't well programmed. Like here, you see that David Reagan only needs 2 more points to get into the playoffs, right? Well, he's actually 300 points below the cutoff line. I don't know how a math error like that made it into the game's programming. Overall, this career mode could use tons of improvement, and they'd unfortunately completely abandon it for Heat 2. I wish they'd spent more time on this part of the game, it would have made it completely better. My score for modes will be a 4 out of 10. They have neat aspects, but the main focus of the career mode suffers from flaws that bring it down. Sound. This will focus on both music and in-game sound. I love the soundtrack to this game. Because soundtrack is kind of a personal opinion, and also it's not really the thing that a lot of people point to when they're talking about sound for a game. I'm not gonna put it as a big part of the score, but believe me, If it was just soundtrack, this game would have a 10 out of 10 for sound. I'm gonna play you clips from NASCAR Heat 2002, and I want you to compare them to Heat Evolution.
Get set, race is about to go green. Green flag, go, go, go. Car high. Car high. Car high. Car high. Get set, the race is going green. There's the green flag. Still there.
Well, how about that? They used the same exact car sounds from Heat 2002. Why? They couldn't have just asked NASCAR to get some engine sounds, or paid a smaller team to get the engine sounds? Well, they could have just done the petty experience thing and gotten new sounds from that. Some guy did that for NR 2003. I assume it didn't cost that much, although to be fair, he was an employee. Gen 6 cars from 2016 obviously do not sound exactly like Gen 4 cars from 2001. The first time I played Heat 2002, I was shocked. How the hell did they get that lazy? One last thing, why do the fans go wild when you take the lead? They cheer like you're Dale Jr., even if you're an almost universally hated driver like Joey Logano or Kyle Busch. Like I said before, soundtrack is awesome. I've been using it in the background of this video. But those two issues, the re-recorded spotter lines, and the engine sounds that were reused from 2001, they bring the score way down. 2 out of 10. Those 2 points come solely from the soundtrack, which is generous. Finally, we've reached gameplay. There isn't a whole lot to cover for gameplay typically, which is why I put it at the end, but there's some things to go over here. First, the infamous pause glitch. Epilepsy warning for this clip, by the way.
All clear. Clear high. All clear. Car high. All clear. Clear high. Clear high. Clear high.
The physics. They're weird. I do like some parts of it, but some parts are just unrealistic and inconsistent. You can just tap a car a little bit and they'll go spinning, but you can slam right on them multiple times. They'll stay steady. You can also slam them with your rear quarter panel and they will wreck. Not you. They will wreck. Although it can feel a little bit scripted, I do like how the AI will attempt to save their car before ultimately wrecking. Sometimes I'd ram into the back of an AI car, they'd save it, but lose control and crash after a second. Some small taps may also result in them moving up the track or jostling a little bit. Small things, but really nice touches. When it comes to actual controlling, I think it's pretty good. And of course, if you're watching my footage, you're probably like, but you're jostling back and forth, you're so imprecise in your steering inputs. That's how it is for every NASCAR game I play. It's not a downside to this game, it's just something I always do. I'm not the best with racing games on controllers, you know? Like, put a steering wheel, like the USB steering wheel in front of me, I can probably do it, but also, the NASCAR Heat games, don't play them with the USB steering wheels. Probably not the best idea. They are significantly lacking in assist options of any kind, not even auto brake or suggested racing line, which was detrimental to younger me. Here's something I almost forgot to mention: tire fall off. This was something criticized to some degree, and it is well worth pointing out. Look at this clip here. So my best lap on lap 26 with my right front tire around 60% wear. Well, that must mean I was holding back, right? Nope. I was leading, and halfway through lapping the field. I honestly don't get the logic here. While it doesn't get in the way of gameplay that much, because it's not billed as a simulation game, it won't affect the rating, but it is worth mentioning. My rating for gameplay will be a 7 out of 10. It's not really that bad. of course, this is probably something a lot of people are gonna have opinions on, and I'd be happy to hear them. Just don't try to like butt heads with me over it. I'm happy to hear your opinion. You don't need to be angry at me for giving gameplay a 7 out of 10. I'm happy to hear anything that I might have missed. I probably missed something because my memory has not been good over the past week while I've been running this script, and maybe some things that I just missed in gameplay. I'd love to hear them. So, my overall rating. I'm going to do a calculation adding all my ratings and dividing them by 4, because it's only fair. I'm not going to sit here and pull a random number out of my ass just because I don't like the game. So, what's my rating? 4 out of 10. Technically it's a 3.75 out of 10, but it's probably best to round it, make it more understandable. This game is bad. Is it an affront to mankind that it simply exists? No. I think the game perhaps receives a bit more negativity than it really deserves. A lot of that comes from what I bill cyberpunk syndrome. A game receives mass amounts of hype, then releases to negative scores across the board because it didn't live up to all the hype. Although this is a bit extreme of comparison here, as Cyberpunk is a pretty fun game, while the reviewers acted like it was the second coming of Satan, it works as a comparison here, somewhat. There's a reason I mentioned all the hype that this game had at the beginning of this review. It's important understanding why this game was slammed so much upon release. Is this all because I made a mistake, I forgot something in gameplay, or I thought something was good when it's actually not, or something? Is that possible that I made a mistake in that area? Probably. But Sunday night I decided to set out on this journey. I'd been struggling to keep doing anything for more than 15 minutes. That entire weekend, I was just bored and miserable and depressed. But I booted this game up, and I stuck with it through the entire night. And every time I've come home from school, I am in 10th grade by the way, every time I've come home from school, over the past week, I have sat down and I have recorded gameplay footage, and I have had fun doing that. Although, not so much fun that I was doing anything except setting career mode races to 2%, but you get what I mean. What matters with games is that you have fun with them. Of course, it does not hurt to look at it through a critical eye, but what really matters is that you're having fun. Don't get me wrong, this game is pretty bad, but as I said, it's not an egregious affront to humanity. If this game had more time in the oven, it could have been a hell of a lot better, but it's far too late for that.